Undisputed.
Good Tuesday morning, everybody, especially if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan. Congratulations. This is Undisputed. I'm Jen Hale. That is Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Better than TCU.
Maybe better than LeBron. He's got an ankle. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't want any part of those Nuggets in Denver last night.
You remember what last time we played the Nuggets, what we did to him? You remember what Goat did to Nikola Jokic?
I don't remember that.
You took him.
I thought he had a cold that night.
He took him. If they give me this.
Poor LeBron, he's got a cold. He's got an ankle. It's always something.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Somebody going to feel it on Thursday.
Are they?
Yeah, that rest. I see a 50-pointer coming on.
All right.
To all of that, guys, in just a minute. But first, we got to start with this college football national championship. The most points ever scored. Georgia won their second straight national championship last night. 65-7, gentlemen. That was the final score over TCU. The Bulldogs, 38-7 halftime lead. That was the largest of any national championship since '02. So now with back-to-back titles, Georgia is the first school to repeat since Alabama did it in 2011-2012. Shannon, I know you've got a lot to say about this one. What was your biggest takeaway?
This is the talent level, Skip. That's what it was. It wasn't coaching. Yeah, Kirby Smart's an unbelievable coach. Got his start under Coach Saban, won lots of national championships at Alabama, took that philosophy to Georgia, recruit 4 and 5 stars, and they're littered with them. It was just the talent. Skip, no matter what anybody says, and I know everybody wants to represent their country and their side of and their conference, the SEC just plays a different brand of football. There's a reason why year after year after year, that conference produces more NFL players than any other conference. And you saw it on full display last night. The 4 stars are just at every position. I'm not so sure how many guys from TCU would have actually started for the University of Georgia. They're just loaded. And it was just 65. Skip, they could have got 80. If they'd have left Stetson Bennett, if they'd have left the starters in, they could have got 80. The score could have been 80 to, 14, 79. So 79-7. That's what the score could have been. I mean, they put the backups in, and they're running up and down the field. It was just, it was embarrassing. It really was. But there's nothing you can do. That was supposed to be the 2 best teams. Skip, you had a college football playoff, and the 2 best teams was supposedly play for the national championship. And we were hoping that we got games at least like the Georgia-Ohio State, something that comes down to the last second. A field goal here or a big play there and whatever. This game was over very early when you just watching it, and I'm looking at it like, The talent level, the disparity in talent was just so vast that even the casual fan could see Georgia is that much better than they are, Skip. It's really, and the thing is, they just retooled. It looks like they might be the new Alabama. But eventually, Skip, that catches up with you like it did Alabama. Because these guys keep going early, and you keep losing the Julios and the Calvin Ridley and the Amari Coopers and the Judys and this one, that one. They keep leaving early, Skip. It gets harder and harder for you to replenish. But just like Alabama, when they were on top, Skip, everybody wants to come. Because they see that pipeline and they see you putting that guys in the NFL. And guess what? Those boosters at the University of Georgia, they like winning now. So guess what they're going to do, Skip? They're going to fill that NIL coffers. That thing going to be running over. And them guys say, well, let me go get a piece of that. Because we know they're going to play for SEC titles. We know they're going to play for national titles. Skip, it was just the talent, 65-7 in a national championship game, Skip. That's like the Super, Skip, you remember those Super Bowls back in the 80s and 90s? How they used to be one-sided, they'd be 55-10, they'd be 45-7. That's what it's not supposed to be that in a national championship game.
Your quarterback was the recipient of several of those beatings.
All of them.
John Elway.
He lost 35-10 to might have been 35-10 to Washington. It went 42-10 to the Giants, and then 55-10 to 49ers.
Montana.
Yeah. So games Skip, in a national championship game, this is supposed to be the 2 best teams. 2 best teams, one shouldn't be 65-7 better than the other.
Yet and still, when we picked this game at the end of yesterday's show, we both said that it would be a close game and that TCU would cover the spread and it would be a good game.
Yes.
And we were both utterly, completely, devastatingly wrong. Okay, so I get what you're saying about talent disparity because we've known that and we knew that going in. But on defense, Georgia had suffered and struggled of late.
Yes.
And the final score against the Ohio State was 42-41, Georgia, so they gave up 41 points. Right. And CJ just went up and down the field on them, and it gave you pause.
Cause for pause.
Yeah, right. And you stopped cold and you said, well, now, wait a second, because I watched TCU a whole lot all year. And all I can tell you is there's some talent on TCU, not Georgia talent, but enough that I thought this would be a fun game to watch because I thought Max Duggan would do some things against them. And we did see one drive in which he did some things and cut the score, as you know, to 10-7. That was pretty much the end of that. But the point is, from what I know of these two teams, Georgia played lights out last night. Georgia cannot play better than it played.
That was their best game of the year.
Yes, it was. And Stetson Bennett said right after the game, this was brutal, cold execution. He said stone cold killer mentality. Well, it was. They didn't miss a trick all night on either side of the ball. No. Everything they did was correct all night long. The execution of it just executed TCU.
Right.
Meanwhile, I know TCU. You obviously watched them against Michigan. They're way better than they played last night. The stage got too big for them right out of the box. Yeah. I couldn't recognize Max Duggan. I didn't know who he was because he was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, and he deserved to be the runner-up for the Heisman. And all year long, I saw him battle his butt off and comeback after comeback, albeit in the Big 12. But he also did it against Michigan at a very high level. And yet, last night, I'm just telling you the truth. He played horribly from start to finish. Where, you know how you just have a bad day or night? He just had a bad night. Yeah. From the start, he was just off. And he got out of rhythm, and he got off kilter right away, and he couldn't get it back. And you could just see it in his face. He was just lost. And the harder he tried, the worse it got. And they couldn't protect him enough, but he had some time to read, and then he would read and go deer in headlights, and he couldn't find it, and they would have a coverage sack. Yeah. And he went down 5 times, and it just seemed to get worse and worse. Meanwhile, the quarterback on the other side just played an all-time game. It was a Joe Burrow-esque game.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've seen anything like that. His game might have been better than Joe Skip for the simple fact he was running for touchdowns. And the balls were pimped. He was throwing like he was Joe Burrow. I mean, the guy dropped it. He dropped it in the bucket.
Just right here. Even the throw to McConkey when he's open, he just hit him right there. It's hard. You know, sometimes you just see more. They busted the coverage.
And remember the guy who had him covered, he threw the one in the corner of the end zone.
Just dropped it
and the guy was holding his arm, and he just dropped it in the right arm.
And they were fighting over it, but it was tie goes to the runner, goes to the offensive player. Okay, I'm going to show you one play, because in a 65-7 game, there's only going to be one turning point play of the game, and it was made by Georgia's quarterback. And the play became, okay, it's 17-7.
Right.
And Georgia's got the ball back, but you think, well, maybe if TCU could get one stop, just one stop here, and it's 3rd and 10 at the TCU 45. And I'm thinking, okay, if you could just get the ball back here and go score again, maybe we'd have something going on. Remember, D. Winters is the best player on defense for TCU, number 13. And you saw what happened against Michigan. He was all over the field. He dominated the game on defense against Michigan. Okay, so let's see what happened on 3rd and 10 from the 4. This is 11:35 left in the second quarter. So it's early in the second quarter, and they come max blitz, and D. Winters has him dead to rights. And Stetson Bennett goes wide left. And I'm going to read you, if I can find it here, the quick quote from Kirby Smart about this. This is Kirby on this play. He says that Stetson saw the max blitz, and he